Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mick, Auzzie E-Piper, for joining us this afternoon for us, this morning for us, and late evening for you.
Yeah, it's just after dinner time here, so it's not too bad. It's just after dinner. So
You're
all good.
ready for a pipe then? Have you had a hearty meal?
Absolutely. After my, I'm ready for my dessert pipe now. So
Good.
yeah.
The reason we're all here together today, folks, is to take a close and intimate look at Jermaine's special Latakia flake. I actually had mine labelled full Latakia flake, and it got me really confused, but I'd made a mistake. The full Latakia is just Latakia, isn't it?
I think that's the stuff that Charlie likes to smoke.
Yeah.
It's just Latakia. Yeah.
Well, this is...
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I doubted myself, so I went back in my emails and found the order, and it's definitely special Latakia flake. So you're both smoking out of a new tin then, Mick. Where'd you get yours from?
I got mine from a bloke in Australia here. He was giving some away, and he gave an ounce away, and I was the lucky guy that got it. And so yeah, I've had it for a couple of months now. Had probably one bowl of it, so it's really chomping at the bit. I thought I saw you smoking it once, and I noticed that you liked it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, we said we would probably do an interview one day, so I saved it for when we did the interview. It was either that or Ennerdale flake, but I don't like that too much, so I thought we'll go with this.
Ennerdale flake is like heroin. You have to. It's not nice the first few times. You have to really work at the addiction. Isn't that right, Phil?
Yeah. The first time you're like, marzipan, what the hell is this? And then you're like, let me just try that again. And then you're like, yeah. You're like the meme guy with the white mouth saying, got any more of that Ennerdale?
Yeah.
Your mate Chris, who complains that what is it, Cornell and Deal's autumn evening promises so much, and then I find that with those Lakelands with Ennerdale, it's promises, but then it doesn't taste like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for me,
wow.
I get nothing. I get a whole bunch of potpourri and soap smell and that, and then I'll light it, and it's just, and might as well be smoking Carter Hall.
Wow.
What flavor that's there? You're okay with floral soapy flavors though, are you?
I don't mind the smell and that, but when I smoke it, I'm not getting anything.
Yeah. One day I'm gonna have to send you some Bosun's Plug to let you try it. It's a bit of clove oil, some Tanzanian dark fired leaf in there, I think, as well, so it's a bit stronger.
Oh yeah.
It's beautiful with a bit. I don't know. It's a bit sweeter. It promises what the smell is. It gives you that, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, shall we get lighting? What pipes are we smoking, fellers?
Well,
I got the Peterson Bulldog, the 150.
Nice.
Everybody's got
very pretty pipe.
There is lots of nice silver spigot work there.
Yeah, I bought it with another spigot pipe at the same time. It was a X105, but had some issues. Had to send it back, and waiting on its replacement. It's going to be a 7L.
Right. What were the issues, can we ask? We always like to hear about Peterson issues, you see. Was this before the Americans took over, do you think? Or
no, it was this year. So, but bought it had the same finish as this. But I noticed after a couple of bowls, the finish was bubbling and flaking away.
You got an old one.
Yeah.
I sent it back because I did notice it was getting abnormally hot. I was doing everything right, but it was just always getting hot, and then it started to flake away. They basically said the flaking and the bubbling issue was my fault and not a warranty issue.
Your fault?
basically telling me that I must have been freight training it and I wasn't breaking it in properly. But funnily enough, upon inspection, they did come across another flaw in the bowl, in the briar, and which was covered under warranty. So they agreed to then give me my money back and give me store credit. So I think it was all a bit of a long way of trying to save their face as well as give me my intended outcome at the same time. So, yeah. But anyway, all's well that ends well. But I couldn't. They changed their prices. I'd obviously bought it on a discount when I did get it, so the store credit wouldn't match to get a proper a direct replacement. But I saw a Savinelli, so I figured might as well get a Savinelli.
That's a pity, isn't it? It's
3 weeks in the air. I'm still waiting for it to get here.
Yeah.
Jesus. Out of interest, what was the flaw that they spotted then? Was it a
It
pit?
was definitely a hot spot in the bowl.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's strange.
I'm glad because I am a nerd, and I thought, you know, what's the use in sending it back?
Yeah.
But it was an anniversary present, and so it was an expensive pipe by my standards.
Yeah.
And I thought, bugger it, you know, for $25 postage, I'm sending it back, and I'll take the punt.
Yeah.
And
you're just right.
But saying that, Peterson in Dublin, actually, I emailed them just to let them know about it, and they offered that if I didn't get a resolution, that I could send it to them as well and get it replaced.
That's good.
So Peterson was willing to come to the party.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. At least it's not a horror story with customer service or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's that much harder in Australia because we don't have. I mean, there's only one brick and mortar store in Melbourne that I could go to look at higher end pipes. In fact, any pipes. No other brick and mortar apart from. In the city in Toorak, which is one of the richest suburbs in Australia. There's a cigar and pipe shop, and I'd have to go in there to look at a pipe. So we're always looking at online, and we're always taking a punt because you can only see from the photos they show you.
Yeah.
So when there is an issue, you've just waited a month for it to arrive.
Yeah.
There's an issue, you know, that's going to take another 3-4 weeks to get back there, and then they're going to take another 4 weeks to get back. So it's
you want to like bothering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are the photographs on the website? Is it the same pipe at least? Do they?
Yeah. Where they they don't just show a stock photo. It's the pipe that you.
Well, at least there's that.
Yeah.
You know, in absence of anything else.
Saying that, I have bought a couple of pipes from. We've got a really good online store up in Queensland, myhumidor.com and or .com.au, and funny law in Australia. I think it is if you sell tobacco, you're not allowed to actually show pictures of the tobacco. You're not allowed to show pictures of pipes or other smoking things either. So he will list the pipe, and then you've got to contact him, and then he'll send you photos
privately.
Yeah,
right.
You can't. Or he'll spear it to smokingpipes.com if you want to have a look at what that particular type of pipe looks like.
Yeah.
So you're looking at pipes listed on My Humidor, but you've got smokingpipes.com up as well, cutting and pasting the names so that you can at least get a look at what that shape looks like. And it's a real pain in the ass because it's all to stop those 9-year-olds that are lining up outside back in it. Trying to buy Peterson, Dublins and stuff.
They love the Cohiba, the big hikes. They love the Cubans. They just,
It's obviously a pandemic of child tobacco issues going on around the world. And
very strange. I mean, also this AFKC flake, you know,
Yeah.
GZ, God forbid that we should know what the fuck is in the flavoring,
Do you know when they were doing that regulation? We're lucky we got away with that, because the original EU regulation was just going to be numbers. Number 4, number 5, and they weren't going to tell you what they were. You'd have to ring the tobacconist, and they'd say, "Oh, number 5 is special Latakia flake." So we're lucky we got away with spec lat f.
Shit. It's bad enough we've got the plain packaging, and the only thing that the plain packaging has done is made it more difficult for the poor shop assistant to find the tobacco that someone's asking for.
Yeah. What's it like in Australia, tin wise? I know here it's literally maybe 20% of the tin is the actual squadron leader, for example.
Oh no, there's no tin at all. 100% covered by baby poo green.
So it's completely gone the way our cigarettes in the UK here are like that.
Pretty much, you've got the name of what you're buying in very small writing, and the rest of it's green with some sort of gross photo of diseased part of the body. So it's it's I just don't see the point in it myself, because I don't think it was even the cigarette packet art. It wasn't that attracts young people to smoking. So, they could have kept packaging the way it was. I mean, the fact that I don't know, I haven't bought a packet of cigarettes for over 4.5 years, but when I was smoking, they'd gone up to $17 or $16 for a pack of 20.
Yeah.
And now they're about $35 or $37 for a pack of 20.
Jesus, yeah.
So, so I haven't bought that's. I will. I got off the cigarettes, and I didn't go straight to pipe smoking. And so when I decided to have a crack at smoking a pipe rather than vaping on electric pipes, I was sort of taken aback at just how. Sorry about that train going past. Yeah. I was surprised at just how expensive tobacco had got.
Yeah.
Because rolling tobacco, pipe tobacco, traditionally was always cheaper than cigarettes, but when they started putting the price hikes up, it was obviously done on weight as well as anything else. So, yeah.
Crazy the way things about pipe tobacco has been lumped in with cigarettes, and I mean, there's no going back now, is there? Yourselves and Canada. I think you guys are Canadian. You guys are worse price wise, aren't you? Canada are slightly behind.
I think we're double Canada's prices.
Theirs isn't that much. Jesus.
Canada are like double the US. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I think Canada would be, Canada was say $60 for a tin of Sherlock Holmes, Peterson Sherlock Holmes. That would be $122 in Australia.
God.
It's prohibitively expensive. Absolutely.
When the opportunity comes along to, someone's giving away or offloading some of their own tobacco that they've had stored, or their uncle has died or whatever, and they're getting rid of tobaccos, you can see why people would jump on that, because it's I just can't believe just how expensive it is. Although Mike at Briar Blues was saying yesterday, I think on one of his live stream, when you think about it, even if it is $120 a tin, that's an hour's worth of pleasure for about $7. And not that you want the government to work that out, because they'll immediately double the price of that, because you can't be having fun in this world.
That's true. I mean,
that won't even get you 2 pints of beer here now. So I mean, yeah,
exactly. But that's a good way to think about it if you're trying to be positive. Yeah, how much pleasure am I deriving from this break it down. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, it's the boffin or the government type people will say it's all about stopping kids from accessing it and getting the adults to smoke less.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a load of shit. All it does is people who are addicted to smokes will buy a packet of smokes rather than buy lunch. And
yeah,
eventually it starts taking food out of the mouths of those kids when you think about it. And that's, all because someone's made a moral judgment decision that they don't like your habit, and they're going to punish you and everyone around you for your habit.
After getting everyone hooked for a few decades or 10 decades, well, many decades, they just.
I remember someone saying, or it's been said, sugar is the new tobacco, and
yeah.
I always laugh at that because sugar hasn't all of a sudden been bad for you. But the do-gooders have pretty much dwindled the smoking population down to about 15%. So they're looking for a new target, and they'll go after sugar. Now, if you look at the price of tobacco in America, say it's $12 for a tin of tobacco, and we're paying 10 times that in Australia. Then if you were to do that to, say, sugar and tax sugar at the same rate in Australia, this $2 can of Coke will now be $20. That can of beer would now be something like $80. But forget the alcohol content, just the sugar content. And that's where they're going.
You think they're actually headed that? I mean, they have started a sugar tax in the UK as well. It's the same you guys with.
Even if they start a sugar tax with 1 cent a can, they've got the tax in, and then they don't need
just increase.
Because
they don't have to legislate tax increases, do they? They just have to legislate the tax in the first place. Once they've got that, you're right.
Yeah.
But we're not. I don't see cirrhosis of the liver on alcohol cans and stuff like that, and
that would make more sense to me than lung cancer on a pipe tobacco.
Well, and that's the step. Why is there pictures of lung cancer on pipe tobacco when? Look, there are a few doctors out there that are willing to say, guess what? All that bullshit about pipe tobacco being just as bad, if not worse, than cigarettes is, of course it is. If you inhale it and you smoke as much pipe tobacco as the equivalent of a pack of cigarettes and you inhale it, it's pretty damn bad.
Yeah.
But the reality is that vast majority of pipe smokers don't inhale, and they don't smoke the same amount of tobacco per day as a cigarette smoker. And that's the reality. And that's why they can't. There's only been like 3 studies ever into pipe smoking, and the studies have concluded that it's too difficult to conclude anything.
And on average, pipe smokers live 2 years longer than your non.
I think that's one study said that. I think someone else once said there's more old pipe smokers than there are old doctors.
Well, yeah, I was talking to Ernie, he was saying it's like all my old guys that come in the shop are pipe smokers. I don't see any old cigarette smokers coming in.
No.
So,
Ernie Q from Watch It.
Yeah.
What a guy. I learned so many things from that pith helmet matinee.
It goes against the narrative, though. Doctors don't like to break ranks because I'm casting a wide net and I'm generalizing it somehow or to some extent, but the medical industry has become corrupted by pharmaceutical companies. You only have to look at the World Health Organization and some of the bullshit things that they come out with. Who is funding the World Health Organization? They talk about big tobacco is rearing its ugly head in the form of vaping. The tobacco industry is about that much of the vaping industry. they want to get into the vaping industry, but the vaping industry has already exploded.
Yeah.
The pharmaceutical companies that are funding the studies that are saying things that vaping is just as bad as smoking, whereas Public Health England, who is completely independent of any of that funding, have consistently come out. I think they're up to their 4th report now that has confirmed that vaping is 95 to 99% safer than smoking, and are now opening vape shops in hospitals. Yet the World Health Organization and the Australian government and many other governments around the world are trying this, they're going ahead with this propaganda that vaping is just as bad as smoking. And I think that's because the pharmaceutical companies are threatened by people using vape to quit rather than Nicorette. And also, the governments want to set vaping up for taxation, so they have to make it a sin.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So that's where, and I think someone did point out once, vaping has a lot to, vaping is one of the reasons why pipe smoking has all of a sudden been caught up in all this bullshit. Because while the government's been trying to attack flavoured vapes, and so flavoured tobacco and things like that is now in their sights as well.
Right.
And the poor pipe smoker has just been sitting there puffing on their pipe, minding their own business, and all this shit's come down on them.
Yeah. Mick, hence the name Auzzie E-Piper. Are you still using the electronic pipe, the vape?
I don't so much these days. It was funny enough, I did vape on e-pipes for 4 years, and it was actually a VR to you where I was talking about why I don't smoke a pipe. And after I did that video VR to you about, I forget, you were doing a giveaway. And I basically said, well, don't bother sending me the cigars or the tobacco because it won't get through. But after I went through my reasons and I had time to contemplate, and what COVID showed me was that there are thousands of people around the world who have lived a relatively healthy lifestyle, and a pandemic came from nowhere and got them. So why don't I actually live?
Right.
I hate to go to my grave having never at least tried to smoke a pipe. So I did. I dabbled. I crossed over. I bought a cheap cob and bought a sample of tobacco, and it was 10 grams. Cost me $40, and
Good Lord.
yeah, and I enjoyed it, and so now I don't vape. I haven't really done any vaping on e-pipes for a while. If it's cold or and it's raining and I'm watching a movie or something, I might grab one and have a puff, because my family allows me to vape inside, but you can't do that inside with a pipe in my house. So
it was the naturally extracted tobacco liquid you like. You didn't like all the strawberry bubblegum flavors. You like the real.
I was getting e-liquids made from actual pipe tobacco. So, Bork and Riff cherry, a lot of people won't smoke that shit, but when you soak it in propylene glycol for 9 weeks and extract the juice out of it, it's a very nice e-liquid.
Right.
And a mate, his name's Andrew as well, Andrew Scotchmer in England. He was buying 50-gram tobacco tins and just making a lifetime supply of e-liquids out of it. So he'd send me the concentrates. 30 mil concentrate would, that would do you dozens of, bottles of e-liquid, and I still haven't got through what he sent me. But that piqued my interest about tobaccos, about learning different types of tobaccos and what they do. And so I think it was natural that, okay, well, I've been vaping on this sweet Virginia e-liquid. What does Virginia taste like to actually smoke in a pipe?
Yeah.
And I can say that the pipe tobacco version, smoking it is different to vaping it.
Mm-hmm.
Different experience. It's a different taste. It's still nice, but it's different. It's and also I never added nicotine to any of my vape liquids either. So
Oh, really? Yeah.
the element to smoking a pipe as well, that you do get a bit of a nicotine hit.
Yeah. Right. I thought you were using that to perhaps get off cigarettes and using nicotine in the e-liquid, but no. Phil, did you ever try the natural?
When I
Say again, I've lost you.
Did you ever try the vaping at all?
No.
No.
It just, I don't know. I'm a bit old-fashioned. They just look naff. Sorry, Mick. I just don't like them.
That's the thing. You know, they're not. A lot of good vape devices try to steer clear of trying to look like cigarettes, for instance, because that way they're not trying to imitate cigarettes. It is a new device. It's a new thing you're doing to get your nicotine hit. The pipe, on the other hand, it was like, well, it actually made sense. You have your tobacco's in here, and this is where all the energy is, and you suck out on it. But with an e-pipe, generally the battery is in the bowl, and you press down a button, and it fires and heats up the coil in a tank, so aesthetically and mechanically, and just in its form, makes it a good device to vape on as well. So, and that's what got my interest. And I got off cigarettes. I went off them. I was off them for weeks. I had no nicotine in my body, but I could tell that I would probably fall back into that cigarette thing for the habit. So I went into vaping with no nicotine, just to get that taste if I needed it, particularly after a meal. When I got into pipes, it was more of it was inevitable to me if things were different. I probably would have made the switch to pipe smoking as I got older anyway. And so I thought, oh, here's my chance to be able to puff on a pipe without all the bullshit that goes with that.
Yeah. And be able to do it indoors as well, like you say, watching a movie or whatever. There's a novelty to that.
Funnily enough, though, if I vaped on a butterscotch flavour or something like that, the whole house would fill with butterscotch flavour, and my wife and kids would go, "Oh, that's nice." But if I did it with like a Balkan Riff, it didn't fill the house with cherry. It didn't have that pleasant room note that the more sort of artificial vape juices had. So, that they put up with it.
And so have Australian government been slowly increasing, they're going after e-liquids and stuff now, or can they only go after the nicotine side of things?
The e-liquids themselves without nicotine is all legal, but if you can't sell e-liquid with nicotine in it, so you have to add your own nicotine.
Right, I think it's the same here.
Each state has a different law about the possession and the importation of nicotine. And so they've been trying to get the federal government to legalise nicotine. But because nicotine is considered a poison, our Therapeutic Drugs Administration actually controls nicotine, and they're refusing to delist it. And so you need a prescription to get nicotine. And they're coming up with a very convoluted system so that it would be practically impossible to get nicotine anyway. Last year, the government decided pretty much with 2 weeks' notice that the importation of nicotine was completely banned, and anyone caught in its possession would be liable to a $230,000 fine. Now, you can kill animals and get less fines for that.
Yeah.
You can do so much other shit and not get that sort of fine. But anyway, there was an uprising, and enough vapors got hold of the right politicians in all parties to pressure their own and call out the bullshit. And so there's been a bit of a stay of execution, but they're still flapping around with it. And But over in New Zealand, they're saying, oh yeah, you can put nicotine in the vape, they can regulate it and all that sort of stuff, and they're going the right way about it. So, but saying that, New Zealand has more draconian tobacco laws than we do in Australia.
It's hard,
good grief.
Hard to believe. So Aussie E-Piper now, the E just stands for excellent. Yes.
Oh, it's a nod to my roots. That's basically it,
Good man. And so your pipe collection so far, how's it going? Am I allowed to ask that?
She's not listening. I've only been smoking for 6 months with pipes, so I've got, I think, 15, including cobs.
You're
good going.
I've got 4 cobs. I've got a handmade one that a mate sent me from America, a few Petersons and a few other Italian-made ones. So and a couple of Falcons. Yeah, so about 15, I think, and 2 more in transit.
On the way. There's always a couple on the way.
Yeah. I do say to people, I'm trying to focus my limited funds onto the tobacco acquisition, because no matter how expensive it is right now, it's never going to get cheaper.
Yeah.
And also just getting some to age it, just for the sake of aging and having something down the track that's a bit different. But but every now and then I see something I like, and it's like it calls to you.
It's hard.
Send vibes.
And
it doesn't help when you've got Glenn done. Buy it.
Yeah, Phil, I'm sure, would blame me as that kind of role in our life.
That's my role these days. I get the other guys to buy pipes. Oh, that looks good. I send them Instagram pictures. Look at that, Or I have to buy them for other people now. But that's it.
Yeah, he can't buy them for himself, so he buys them for. Look what he bought me for. Look at that beautiful pipe for passing my motorcycle test, but which I didn't even do. But it arrived yesterday.
Well, you're gonna have to pass it now, aren't you?
I know. I
can't. That's a beautiful pipe,
isn't it? He's an absolute bastard. Absolute bastard. Magnificent bastard.
I've got a Falcon here, but you can't see. But this is a carbon fiber bowl.
I can't see the detail there. Yeah.
Can you see that little cross hatching?
I thought they were usually blue, like a beautiful.
No, this is not Briar. This is carbon fiber.
What's carbon fiber?
They brought it out. It smokes fine. It smokes like anything. They brought these out a few years ago, just very briefly, and that I think the market died on its ass. I probably got one of the few around.
Is it not just coated? So it is.
No, it's carbon fiber.
Jesus, I thought it was a paint job.
No, but the smoke's really cool and dry like a Falcon. It's like I can't really argue with it,
Perfect for the Falcon.
And I suppose this special Latakia flake is just so smooth and really sweet and nice, and it's just perfect for those sorts of pipes too, isn't it?
What do you think about the amount of? Would you say Virginia or Latakia is the lead player?
It's Virginia, isn't it? I've forgotten how little Latakia is actually in it.
I can definitely taste the Latakia, but then again, I've been smoking a lot of pirate cake in this particular. But I think the Latakia just smooths it out. It just takes away that bite.
It makes the retrohale really smooth. Incredibly so. I think this is still available in the UK. I think there's a couple of websites that have it. It's one of the ones that you usually can get, although Germain's is really getting to be like esoterica in America at the moment, isn't it?
Really annoys me because of like a few years ago it was like unicorn shit. You couldn't get it at all. And then they figured out a way to do it. And then now it's gone back to the way it was.
one thing I'll say, you talk about unicorn shit, just reminded me. One thing I'll say about the special Latakia flake, when I take it out of the tin, air it out, it smells like that horse shit smell you get at shows, carnivals,
All
circus.
Germain's blends have that. Well, all the ones I've tried,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
brown flake and rich RDF, rich dark fire, the manure, the like fermented smell. It's beautiful.
Was the factory made it on top of an old zoo or something? Is it? It's. I did dry it out for a couple of hours, but it's not an offensive smell, but you certainly smell the farmyard.
Actually,
out of the
I'm odd. I like that smell.
Oh no, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't offensive, but that's the smell again. But it doesn't translate into tasting like that, which is very important.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. It's definitely just a smooth.
In the last 6 months, I assume you've been trying to experience everything: Latakia, Burley, Virginia, even Rustica, maybe, and that types of thing. Have you come to settle on any favorites, or is there any particular blend type that you prefer?
I do like pirate cake. I do like a lat bomb every now and then. But my during the day smoke, if you like, I really like vapors. Funny enough, but it's I know I like Escudo, and I've got a bit of Peter Stockaby's Luxury Navy Flake, which I really like. So that sort of thing I'm finding is my during the day smoke, but at night I do like more of a Latakia forward or an Oriental or something like that. Night, maybe it's the cold weather that we're coming into.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the seasons there. So it does come down. It comes down to 30 degrees centigrade as opposed to
now where Glenn lives up in Queensland, I mean a cold day for him is 22 degrees, but that would be my average. My average summer day would only be 25 down in Victoria where I live.
Really?
It gets, in summer it can get really hot. It can get 46 degrees. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, 120.
We don't do Fahrenheit either. Yeah, we're all right.
But it's and we've had heat waves where you get a week of 45 and it won't get lower than 30 at night, that sort of thing. But that sort of weather is for a short space of time, and then where I live, you get probably 9 months of cold weather, and so I don't have air conditioning, but I have central heating because that's what gets used the most. So yeah, today I think it probably got to 10 degrees or something during the day. And in summer, it would probably wouldn't get lower than 16, but at night. But it's sort of like an autumn climate where I live, for 6 months, and then winter for 3 months, and then summer for about 6 weeks. But when it's hot, it's bloody hot.
Yeah.
Whereas up where Glenn lives, for instance, in Queensland, he's got a more consistent climate.
Oh, consistent, right.
It can get quite hot, but it's always warm.
Yeah.
It's not his version of cold is probably my spring.
Yeah. It's amazing that it's so different on the same continent, isn't it? But it's
a big
large.
Continent.
Yeah.
Well, I used to live in New South Wales, Big Hippo. I used to live in a town only an hour or so, a couple of hours east of him, and it would get to -7 at night in winter time. It would get colder than the snowfields, but in summer it would be consistently 43 degrees. So we had cracks in our house, and you could see them sort of close up in summer and then open up in winter.
Insane.
Mm.
How's the blend treating you, folks?
Oh,
Into
nice.
the halfway or into the 3/4?
Mm.
I'm into the third. Smoking
Been
slow.
talking too much. I've had to light it that many times.
It's a hard one if you're rubbing it out. You got to be real careful. That Latakia can just turn to dust, can't it?
Yeah, I folded stuffed, so
Mm.
didn't want to break it up.
I rub
I
mine out.
don't really get Orientals in this blend. I'm not convinced there are any.
I think there is a sour note there.
That's true.
Yeah, right at the end of the draw.
Yeah, that's true. I can hear the crickets.
The frogs.
Or frogs.
Frogs, yeah.
Mating time for the bullfrogs.
It was when I first moved here 16 years ago. It still is a small town. I'm about 80 or so kilometres outside of Melbourne, and the town's got bigger since I've moved here. But used to get up in the morning, and it still happens from time to time. You come out and have coffee or whatever, and you hear cows mooing. And at night you hear the frogs and all that, especially we've had a lot of rain over the last couple of days. And that's really nice. I grew up in suburbia in Sydney, and so there was always noise of some description going on.
But it's street noise.
And, yeah, just street noise and the hum, of traffic and everything. When I moved out to the middle of New South Wales for my work, lived there for a couple of years, and the nighttime was just dead quiet and pitch black, and it took it a little bit of getting used to, but it was quite a pleasant experience. And so when we moved to Victoria, I actually vowed never to live in the city ever again. So when I took up a job offer here in Melbourne, I had to live out of Melbourne. I couldn't contemplate living in suburbia in the city. And I'm glad I did, actually, because given this COVID business, Melbourne and the greater Melbourne area got locked down for nearly a year, and the regions were able to be a little bit freer. I'm in the region, so I've got that beauty. Victoria is one of those places where you can travel for 50 kilometres and you're out of Melbourne. Sydney, you travel for 50 kilometres and you're still in bloody Sydney. It's just so spread out.
Wow.
So, yeah, you can escape more readily, I suppose, in Victoria. That's why a lot of the places near where I live and places like Daylesford and that, the weekends are busy in those towns because they're only an hour or so's drive from anywhere. And so people like to get out of the city for the weekend, and they can do it. And Victoria is a very compact state. But whereas New South Wales and particularly Queensland, the capital cities of that and the rest of the states sort of like this, Whereas with Victoria, you can go on a day trip pretty much anywhere to the east or the west from Melbourne, and be home for dinner.
That's one place I still have yet to go to, Australia. I know you've been out that direction, Phil. You even lived in.
I lived in Hong Kong, so I was able to go to New Zealand a couple of times and Australia a couple of times because it's only like a 7-hour flight from there, so it was doable, yeah. But I can't imagine doing it from here now,
Oh. Well, yeah, I've been to New Zealand a couple of times, but only for work.
Yeah.
And it's a 3-hour flight. It's faster to fly from Melbourne to Auckland than it is from Melbourne to Perth. And
that's how big your country is, yeah.
Yeah, and you lose a couple of hours going in that direction as well. But New Zealand's a really nice place, but There's progressive, and then there's just sticking their noses right in your business progressive.
Yeah.
And
what's her name is a bit much. What is her name again? Why have I forgotten?
Jacinda Ardern,
Yeah,
is their prime minister. Look, she's very compassionate. She gives everyone hugs when they're sad and all that sort of stuff. You know,
she likes to play dress up all the time, doesn't she?
Hey,
she likes to play dress up quite a lot, and it comes across patronizing when I see politicians doing that. You know.
I think she's reasonably sincere, but her party is probably more left wing than is comfortable, and so yeah. I laugh at Americans because they think anything to the left of Genghis Khan is a communist, you know. But when you talk about New Zealand, like that is as left as you can get and still run a relatively competent government. But some of their policies, like their tobacco policies and things like that, it's foreign to even an Australian, put it that way. Yeah. And without putting shit on New Zealand, it is, some people get New Zealand and Australia confused, but New Zealand definitely has its own culture and its own history and its own way of looking at things. Yeah. So we probably refer to them as cousins rather than brothers and sisters.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. A lot of people say the west coast of Ireland can look like New Zealand if the weather is right. Having never been, I can't confirm, but photos, yeah, I suppose. There's sheep as well. Have you any? I'm going to ask you the desert island discs question. Top 3 blends, if you had only 3 blends for the rest of your life, in order.
Well, Prince Albert, because that's usually the first bowl of the day is a Prince Albert.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so uncomplicated, and it's a really, you know, that's usually the first bowl of the day will be Prince Albert, and then I'd have to say luxury navy flake, and then maybe something like a special Latakia flake, I think, for nighttime.
Yeah,
that would be my. But the reality is, I can't get a lot of this, and I don't know when I'll get it again next. And so I usually have something like pirate cake or something like that, which is a little bit easier to get.
Yeah. That's a lat bomb as well, isn't it? I haven't.
It really is. Yeah.
I must try.
75% Latakia.
Jeez, really?
It is. I couldn't smoke that sort of blend all day. It would be sort of one bowl every second day, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I know our friend Mark loves it too.
He's a fiend for the Latakia, isn't he?
Cigars, yeah.
So I don't like cigars.
No?
Never been into them. It might be a cost thing.
Yeah.
But I just, and maybe the cigars I've had in my life have just been crap cigars.
Yeah. I don't mind them myself. I'm just not that passionate about them like other people. Now, Chris loves them too, doesn't he? You know, so, yeah.
I'm convinced it's a thing to do with it's all material. I'm convinced. Every time I have and I've had what are meant to be good cigars. Steph's dad and my father-in-law smokes cigars, and so does his mate, who happens to own an insurance firm. And he gave me a cigar once, and I think it was at my wedding. But somebody came up to me and went, "Did you take that?" You know, when they saw me smoking. I couldn't even tell you what it is. I was like, "No, of course I didn't." And they were like, "That's all right." You know, so I thought, right, much are these? And maybe they were 100 or something silly, like 80 euros or 100 per stick.
Jesus Christ.
So I have no idea what it is, but it was Cuban, apparently that price range, and I couldn't have told you what was special about it. every time I have a cigar, I fancy a pipe. I mean,
Yeah.
Dominican Republic though, there's a make called Balmoral, and they make reasonably priced cigars, and they're bloody lovely, really good. Dominican Republic or Balmoral, they're called. Check them out if yeah, you're never going to because you don't really see the point. Neither do I, but they're well priced anyway.
Yeah, but you never say never either, and tastes do change, you know. And if I was offered a nice cigar by someone, I'd accept it and have a go.
Yeah.
But I don't go chasing them. I don't go buying them or anything like that. When I did try to give up smoking once by switching to small cigars, cigarello type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought maybe that probably isn't a good introduction to cigars. That a cigar aficionado wouldn't necessarily advise to do that. But it is what I know, and what I was able to get my hands on quite readily, and it didn't give me a taste for it. You know, but saying that, now that I've been smoking pipes for a while and I'm used to different types of like different tastes, I'm getting, you know, you're always tasting something different. Maybe I would appreciate a cigar.
Yeah.
Now.
Do you ever see that channel, Phil? What do you call the guy? Sauter. What do you call the?
Oh, sort of cigars, yeah.
Sauter cigars. I'll send you a link.
Lawrence Davis.
Lawrence Davis.
He looks like I always call him like Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Big mountain of a fella. And he likes the biggest ring gauge ever, and he chews his cigars.
Chomps on it. He has these big rubbery Joe Brand, the comedian lips, you know, these big characteristic lips, and he chomps and chews and salivates, and he talks like that. He's hilarious.
Talks very much like Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah. He lost a whole load of weight recently, so
yeah, he looks weird now.
He looks strange now. Yeah.
I just had to dip out. I just had to do a bit of an ash dip then, finding that this is one of those blends where maybe it's the size of the bowl as well that just becomes hard to smoke after a while. You just got to
dip out the ash. That's a good technique. I try and do that all the time.
How's that pipe smoking, Cassidy?
Absolutely fantastically.
Good.
It is.
Did it have that rubberized coating inside the bowl?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wonder what that stuff is.
It wasn't too sticky this time, though. The last Peterson I got was sticky and black. This was dry. But it's smoking wonderfully. The drilling is absolutely spot on.
Yeah, the drilling in this is superb.
I can't believe that. I always thought those were just made to look like carbon fiber. That's hilarious. Does it not heat up?
Not at all. It's like space age material.
So strange.
Yeah.
Didn't Porsche make a pipe and it was made out of carbon fiber?
Yeah. It went for a bloody lot of money too.
Quite a good looking thing though.
I think it came with some of the cars as well.
Oh really?
I think it actually came with the pipe, yeah.
I think Bugatti has made an e-pipe.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ducati? Right?
Bugatti.
Bugatti.
Yeah. Sorry.
Bugatti, okay. Right.
Bugatti. We need Sandro here for the proper pronunciation, don't we?
He'd tell us off.
I'm never going to afford to buy one, so I don't need to necessarily get the name that correct.
Exactly, yeah. There's somebody in this street that drives. There's a lot of people in this street that have their cars on finance, obviously. It's a lot of Mercs, Audis, and BMWs. Fair enough.
They all carry 3 mobile phones as well, do they?
Possibly. No, well, there are. Yeah, there are. That would be a sign. Yeah. There is a guy that lives opposite me who had his door kicked in at 2 a.m. About 6 months ago. So he's definitely a dealer of some sort. But there's another one with a Maserati, and that's just like, what the fuck? Why are you living in a house? That car costs the same as that house. Crazy. But yeah.
It's their cars' office, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it gets to a point, and I know a few people have said they have a job where they're spending most of their life in their car. Then they see comfort and all that as an investment, really, because this, I do. Before the pandemic, I was doing at least 50,000 k's a year in my car, and so it's worth having something comfortable and reliable and all that. I actually had we had a brand in Australia called Holden, which was owned by General Motors, and it was I did the Aussie thing, have the Australian. It wasn't Australian built, but Australian owned. Had the Ute and everything, and I ended up getting rid of it because I wasn't utilising it for the you have a Ute, you want to be carting stuff around all the time, and I wasn't doing that. I actually bought a BMW, and with the Ks I was doing over a course of a year, the BMW was cheaper to run than the locally branded Ute. So sometimes, I'm not saying that about Maseratis when you're getting up into that realm, but sometimes buying something just a little bit more expensive turns out to be more economical in the long run.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Saying that, you have a BMW for 3 or 4 years, and who's going to buy a BMW with 200 Ks on it off you? No one.
What were you doing then that had you 50,000 miles a year?
It's what I'm doing now. It's I mean, in safety, as a safety manager, going around different sites and stuff, and living outside of Melbourne. It's just to go to head office is 160k round trip. So
okay, yeah, I suppose that's the sacrifice for living out in the country. Then
it's one of those. Yes, there's the cost that you pay, but so I do 150 to 200 kilometres per day of driving during the week. One good thing about the pandemic is that it's shown a lot of companies that you can your staff can work from home. It's not ideal, but it's shown that you might spend 4 days a week in the office or at site or whatever, but if you just got to get shit done, it's probably better for everyone if you just stay at home and get it done.
Yeah.
And no one's worried about the fact that you're not doing any work or anything, because we've proven over the course of the last year or so that shit gets done.
Yeah.
And I prefer during when we're allowed to, I prefer to be out at site, walking around, talking to people and doing that sort of stuff, and leave the paperwork side of things for another day or maybe once a week, sort of stick my head into that. But yeah, getting to travel around, and one thing I have missed is I haven't travelled interstate or internationally. When I say internationally, over New Zealand in the last 16 months, which is something that I miss because I need and I want to get to those sites. The travel part of it's neither here nor there, but just being out physically where things are. And we're at that stage now, especially in Victoria, where our government will shut everything down as soon as someone sneezes. And all the other governments will shut us out as soon as someone sneezes. So if we travel, you've always got that risk that you might be in the air when something happens. We've had people fly to Western Australia. It's a 4-hour flight. They took off, everything was hunky-dory. By the time they were about to land, they had quarantine rules in Perth.
Yeah.
So it's just, and it's very hard to run a business under those circumstances. So we don't want to travel unless the risk is worth it. So traveling just for the sake of being able to visit a site, it's like, well, if you've got any actual business you've got to be doing there, otherwise it's probably not worth the risk.
Yeah, make it worth your while. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the same with us. We my particular job was 2 days a week from home originally anyway, but now they've decided to actually give up our office space to a team that simply can't do it from home. So I don't think we'll be back in the office, or if we do,
Well,
it'll be 1 day a week, and that's it, really.
a lot of businesses have realised that, well, hang on, we don't need our staff in here, and it's actually costing us money to have all these people here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
CBD real estate, you wouldn't want to own any at the moment because
nowhere.
But yeah, a lot of people have now leasing their places and things like that. Although the bosses of companies that own those buildings are probably walking around going, "Where is everybody?" Yeah.
The problem is though, you've got all the service businesses that support those businesses are going to go under the because they've got no business now. Everyone's at home. The sandwich vans and all that sort of stuff, and
yeah,
that's a pity.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage because there's a lot of economy built up around that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when we came out of lockdown, the government tried to lead by example and get as much as the public service back into the office as possible, so that at least the CBD was filling again, even if it was only half capacity, just to get those other businesses going. Yeah. And that's who
business term there. CBD, Central Business District.
Yeah.
Every day is a day.
They were the first to cop it in the neck, where the sandwich bars and the cafes and
crazy.
And they pay exorbitant rents for the privilege of having a shop in the city.
Yeah.
So the reality is that through no fault of their own, some businesses will never recover, and they've closed and they will remain closed.
But then again, some new ones will spring up.
Always does.
So it will continue, but
just be a different animal.
Yeah.
Well, you have to look at online businesses now have surged.
Yeah.
Since in November 2019, I'm in the logistics industry, so you start to get Christmas volumes in October, November, and it peaks around December. It hasn't come down. The sort of parcel deliveries and all that sort of stuff has not dwindled since December 2019.
Wow.
Each week like Christmas in the freight industry.
Seriously?
Because we're all at home and we're all ordering online.
It's true. I see the Amazon Johnny's on our road every day, 2 or 3 times. Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, Amazon, how much have they made over this? How much have they made?
It's unbelievable. How much?
Well, you might start a conspiracy theory.
Some would say, that the small to medium-sized businesses are being purposefully crushed and shut down and pushed out. And your billionaires are just making their money, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos. They're doing it.
And this is also too what the pandemic has uncovered is that we had a highly casualised workforce, and when all of a sudden there's no work on, so many people were unemployed instantly because no holidays, and a lot of them were casualised in the sort of industries that were particularly susceptible to the pandemic, like abattoirs, warehousing.
I think we call it 0 hours here. Yeah.
Gig economy.
So they don't owe you any set hours. Is that what you mean? That sort of. Yeah.
And then and so we particularly agency casual nursing staff and just aged care workers would be going from one aged care home to another aged care home to another aged care home, doing 3 different jobs and spreading the virus through the aged care sector as they went. And it was because if they couldn't afford not to work because they had no holiday pay, they had no sick leave.
And all people still needed aged care, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it exposed just how vulnerable we all were by having so many people casual. You know, for a long time, conservatives would say that the unions had too much power, that the worker had too much power. And so our industrial relations laws in Australia had moved progressively, for want of a better expression, to the right.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where the employers had the upper hand and dictated wages. We had no wage growth in Australia for the last 10 years. And it was because of the heavily casualised workforce.
Yeah.
And a pandemic comes along and it sort of shone a very bright light on just how precarious that was.
Mm-hmm.
And now everyone's an economist, because we're all talking about how we're going to get out of this mess and what is the road to recovery. The road to recovery has to include higher wages so that people have now got some spending money.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got no way of making employers pay people more money necessarily. One thing, the immigration has stopped. And so there's a labour shortage now of skilled workers, because we can't just bring them in from overseas. So that might be a market force towards, higher wages, and we might get out of this somehow. But yeah, I mean, I'm not making a call on the morals of it one way or the other. I'm just saying it is what it is.
Is there a national minimum wage in Australia? I assume there would be.
Yeah, in fact, it just went up last week. A decision in the courts raised it by 2.5%. So it's now $20 an hour or something like that.
Fuck, that's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, but the cost of living's a lot too. It's all relative.
Well, I was just thinking when you mentioned 0 hours contracts and all that, you kind of think that people in America who the minimum wage for staff that live off tips hasn't changed since like the early 90s or something. And what the hell's going on there? Like, it's just, how do these people live? If they don't get tipped, they don't live. It's crazy.
My accountant once said, it's one thing to come in as a business owner and whinge about having to pay your staff too much money, but your staff are going out and spending money, and other people's staff are out there spending money at your business.
Yeah, exactly. But if nobody can
get paid enough, at some point you can underpay people to the point where it's detrimental to yourself. Because if no one's got any money to spend, and if you're not in an industry where you're selling the essentials of life, then you're going to be the first business they drop when they haven't got so much spare cash. And one thing our federal government did do at the start of this pandemic is provide a basic minimum wage to everybody. They put in place what they call JobKeeper. They paid $750 per employee to the business, so that the business could continue to pay its employees, therefore keeping the employee and the employer connected. And that kept the economy going, because for some people...
Was that fully subsidised?
That was the government just giving $750. And for some people, that was more money than they were earning anyway. And for others, it was a pay cut. But it at least got people ticking over with the essentials. They also put moratoriums on rent and things like that. So economically, our government has handled this very well. Our federal government and our state governments haven't necessarily played nicely together, and both state and federal have fucked things up a hell of a lot in many respects. But the one thing the federal government did was keep the economy ticking over. So Australia was very much the lucky country through all of this,
we're going to be able to get Tim Tams and all sorts of Aussie shit soon, aren't we? We just signed the trade deal that last week. Vegemite, here we come.
Yay.
You know that there's a special way of eating Tim Tams too, don't you?
What the fuck is a Tim Tam?
It's like
chocolate coated biscuit.
yeah.
Chocolate coated biscuit, right?
It's
Yeah,
like a
but-
bourbon with chocolate over it. That's the only way I can think of them.
Okay.
And it's got biscuit inside it, and there's a special way of eating it that you can't just take a bite out of it. When you get a packet of Tim Tams, we should reconvene and we'll show you how to eat a Tim Tam.
Okay.
It's a shitload nicer than that Vegemite crap, I'll tell you that.
Oh, so you're in that camp? Hate it?
Oh,
You
I
hate
it
all
with
of
a
it.
passion. Oh, I hate Vegemite. I was force-fed it once as a child, and
Force-fed it. They held you down.
yeah.
Michael, open your mouth. There's a Vegemite. Get down there.
You need that.
I never
Deep one.
liked it, but one day my mum accidentally gave me my brother's lunch when I was in kindergarten, and he had Vegemite with cheese on a sandwich.
Yum.
And I opened that up and I went, no, I'm not eating that. And the teacher made me eat it.
Yeah.
And
Fuck,
I was traumatized.
terrible.
Mm.
Yes, me and Glenn have had this debate. He had recently made that video about he tried Marmite, and to be fair, he was kind. He accepted.
He didn't hate it. Yeah.
He didn't hate it. Yeah.
Mm.
I assume you just hate yeast flavored brown stuff.
I'll tell you what, he has that. He says it looks like axle grease and tastes like heaven. It looks like axle grease, and that's what it should be used for.
Mm. Mm.
And I think, that's all I have to say about that.
Mm.
Yeah. It's not for it's clearly not for everyone, but
No.
Well, it is basically made out of, that shit, the cruddy, yucky stuff at the bottom of your beer can after 2 days.
Mhm.
that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
It's the same stuff.
Hmm.
Used to see a lot of it when I was a bartender on the bottom of kegs as well.
Mm.
Mm.
You could have canned it up and called it Irish Mate or something like
Yeah. Cassie mate.
that.
Nice. Put hairs in your chest.
Yeah, to put them everywhere.
So, do you have any particular blends that you're trying to, like you mentioned earlier, but tobacco prices aren't going down, certainly. Is there anything you're cellaring?
I'm
concentrating on?
Yeah, I'm always, if I'm going to buy a couple of tins of tobacco, one of them will be a vapor. So one of them will be a Scudo, or I've really taken a liking to All It Golden Sliced, All It Golden Sliced and Luxury Navy Flake, sort of my favourites at the moment. But I have been able to put away, 3 or 4 tins of a Scudo and a tin or more of, and I've jarred a few things that I've accumulated over time. If people are off, because people have bought it and don't like it, so they'll put it out there. Does anyone want to swap, or does anyone want to buy this?
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, mainly the vapors and probably pirate cake and stuff like that. I've got a bit of. But anything, one thing I have worked out is I like flake tobacco. So flake coins or normal flakes, something like that.
Good man.
Rather than ribbon cuts. I think it's just easier to store and holds its flavour better.
Yep.
So yeah, certainly like it. And I like the whole, even though I rubbed this one out for tonight, I like the fold a flake and just shove it in.
That's what I do. Yeah.
That's why I really love coins, because you could just fold it and shove it in, and it does it, and it does the rest for you.
Yeah. It's lovely. Have you tried the Peter Heinrich's Curly Block?
No.
Right.
No, I haven't had any Peter Heinrich stuff at all.
Very good vapor. Very good. Well, it's an expensive hobby to cellar in Australia, indeed. Let me see. I was going to ask, are Germains and Gawith, are they readily available for you guys? Any Australian websites? No.
If we were to buy it, if we were to want to source something, we could contact that tobacco, online tobacconist I told you about, or the one of the brick and mortar, we can contact them and say, look, can you order this in? And they'll do it, but you'll be waiting until they can get their hands on it. And, you know, so there's not always a ready amount of tobacco that we can just get. A lot of the time it's like Ian Massey, who owns My Humidor, he said to me, look, if it's not on my website, I can get it in for you, because the reality is a lot of my stuff that I'm getting in is practically sold before I get it. It's all to order.
Yeah.
You might buy a few extra tins of it to put on the website, but even at the prices that we're dealing with in Australia, tobacco goes pretty quickly. The good stuff. You can go down to any old tobacconist we say tobacconist, it's a very general term because they're usually just cigarette shops. And, you know, they might have a pouch of Dr. Pat or Aaron Moore Ready Rubbed or something like that, but nothing that you'd want to buy, you know, that's nice, you know, nothing premium.
You've just offended every Aaron Moore smoker out there, yeah.
I know.
I agree with you,
I don't see what the deal is with Aaron Moore either.
I
didn't mind Aaron Moore Flake, but Aaron Moore Ready Rubbed and Dr. Pat, and that's just crap.
What is Dr. Pat?
I don't know, but it must be good for you because it's made by a doctor.
That's what Glenn was showing us the other week, Dr. Pat's, the Aussie backy, isn't it? Yeah. He's
got that tin that's from about 1942 or something.
Yeah.
And it's still as moist as the day he bought it. But it's a codger blend in Australia. And we can get Captain Black and that sort of stuff as well. But, you know, Captain Black's $100 for, you know, an ounce. You can get that sort of stuff. So if you want a premium thing, you have to go to My Humidor or Alexander's or something like that, and they'll source it for you. And it's because the taxes have to be paid by the owner before it gets through customs. So for them to hold tobacco, they've already paid the $90 of tax on it before they can sell it, and they don't make much money out of each tin, you know. So it's almost like a service that they're doing us.
Yeah.
Because there's no margin.
There's no money. There's no margin in tobacco now.
I remember in the old days, you used to go to a milk bar or a corner store or something, or even a petrol station, and that's where they made their money, was on cigarettes.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you know, they're lucky to make a couple of bucks, you know.
That's great.
It is. It's a sign of the times, and smokers are in the major minority. Any side of politics can now walk all over a smoker, and no one's going to defend them. No one's going to stand up for them. Unfortunately, people don't realise that tobacco and cigarettes, and that's where it starts, and that's where it started. And sure as shit, it'll be something that everyone else, you know, it'd be their favourite thing that is all of a sudden to be in the gun.
Yeah.
And this is where Americans have got it. They've got the right idea, in that my impression of America anyway is their Bill of Rights, their freedoms are number one priority. Anything that impinges on their freedoms, they see as a slippery slope. And when you look at the experience in Australia, it is a slippery slope. As soon as any of your freedoms, and whilst they haven't quite banned it, they've taxed the shit out of it, and that's what they do. They tax the crap out of it until it gets right to that tipping point where, if they tax it too much more, too many people will give up. So they'll just keep us teetering, you know.
Just making their money, aren't they? Bastards.
Always, the argument of why should my taxes pay for your health problems caused by your tobacco use? And it's like, well, the excise on tobacco, it doesn't pay for the health system. But when you take away the whole industry that's also around tobacco, so you take away all those people that are employed in the tobacco industry that are all paying income tax as well
Yeah.
and all that, it's actually become a false economy. They've sucked too much money out of the system because there's not that infrastructure built around it. I mean, there's no tobacco grown in Australia anymore. And that means that there's hundreds of workers that are no longer paying income tax, no longer buying sandwiches at that milk bar and all that sort of stuff. So it's a very narrow-minded argument that, your habit is costing everyone else money.
Yeah, that's...
We have a very strong alcohol culture in Australia, but that's getting chipped away as well. And I'm not condoning drunkenism and all that sort of stuff, drunkenness. But what it is showing is that they'll chip away and they'll chip away. And one day we will wake up, and they've done it already. We did wake up one day and a bourbon and Coke had doubled in price because it was declared an alco pop, and the kiddies were lining up around the corner for it and all this sort of stuff. And it was actually a tax designed to target those lolly type drinks with alcohol in them.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it also grabbed your bourbon and Coke, your rum and Coke, those stock standard type of drinks, because they were mixed drinks.
What if you ordered them separately then? I'll have a rum and a Coke, Could you get around it that way, or what?
Not if it's canned, but yeah.
Pre-canned, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I see.
And but that's, like I said, sugar will be, when they say, sugar is the next tobacco, what they really mean is sugar is our next target.
Yeah. Well, folks, you two, it was lovely. For me, I've got to go.
No worries, mate.
I've got my day. But I give that a 3 out of 5. Not my favorite blend in the world. Because it doesn't know what it wants to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, me and Mick are going to continue on and we'll give it a rating, and we'll see what we come up with. 3.5, did you say, or 3?
No, 3 out of 5, just 3.
3 out of 5.
Means it's okay, but even that age 10, it's okay. It's mostly Virginia blend, a good Virginia blend, but
it's so you wouldn't cross the street to avoid it, but you wouldn't cross the street to buy it either.
I wouldn't chase it down. No. Lovely to see you.
Speak to you
shortly. Phil.
Toodle pip.
See you soon.
See ya.
Yeah, I reckon that I'd give it a 4 out of 5, I think, because it's just a nice, smooth smoke. And it's been going over an hour, and still got some left. It's.
I'd easily.
I think the only reason I had to relight was because we were talking. Otherwise,
me too. That's the only reason. I would easily give it a 4 as well. Absolutely. I mean, people often criticize it because it doesn't have that much Latakia in it, but that's just what the blend is. It's just different. And I think the Virginias are not overtaking too much, and I think it's incredibly smooth. Whatever Latakia they use is very high quality. So I'm
only getting to the stage now where I can actually start really understanding what I'm tasting. Because when my first bowl of that I smoked was Squadron Leader, and I'm told that is just a no fuss, really good middle of the road English. And people were asking me, could you taste this and could you taste that? And I'm thinking, I could just taste smoke. Like, I don't know what I was tasting. But as I've smoked Latakia forward blends, I'm now detecting Latakia in other blends. As I've smoked more Virginias, I'm now able to detect Virginias. If I smoke something that's got Oriental in it, all of a sudden I'm realizing, oh, hang on, this tastes like it's got Oriental in it. Whereas only a few months ago, I wouldn't know if it was Oriental or whether it was English or what it was, and that's one of the pleasures that's coming through in this hobby is getting to know that and becoming more discerning about that and understanding what people are talking about. Some people have palates where they start, you know, not only have they got amazing palates, they've got amazing vocabularies because they can describe these things right down to the type of friggin' wheat in that bread that it tastes like, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I remember Kilted Piper Steve saying in all the years that he's been smoking, he wouldn't be able to tell you what's in any of the tobaccos. He just tells you which ones he likes.
Whether he likes it or not, yeah. I'm only starting to get better at distinguishing between different types of leaf, but my vocabulary for it is coming along too, I think. But no, some of them are just unbelievable. If you read Jim Ink's reviews on tobacco reviews.com,
I was just thinking of that. You know, it's almost cut and paste, isn't it? The woody, citrusy, bready, fruity of the Virginia mixed with the. You go, okay.
Same paragraphs for Virginia.
I didn't taste any of that. I copped this mouthful of smoke, and I'm trying to work out what the hell's in it. And he's talking about plums and fruits and breads and yeasts, and I'm going, no, I'm not there yet, but I'm starting to at least distinguish between the different types, and that's nice. And also I'm starting to get to that point where I thought something was in it and I'm not tasting it, and so I'm thinking, hang on, I thought this had such and such in it, but I thought this had perique in it, but I'm not tasting it. And I go, oh no, it doesn't have perique in it. That's why I'm not tasting it.
That's cool. Yeah.
And also just recently, the difference between the sensation you get from perique, which is peppery, and red Virginias that give me that tingly sensation. But also, as Glenn pointed out to me the other night, I was smoking, I tried a flake of 1792, and he was explaining that was the nicotine tingle that I was getting, because I couldn't quite place it as a Virginia tingle, and it wasn't peppery. But so now even getting to know, because not having put nicotine in my e-liquids, I didn't recognise that sensation either. So,
and you certainly notice it in 1792 flake,
yeah, I did the right thing. I had a good feed beforehand, and I thought, I've actually had 50 grams sitting in my drawer since January, and I just thought, no, I want to be a little bit more experienced. I want to understand my tolerances a little bit more, because everyone tells me it's a really strong and all that. And so I had it after a good feed, and I dried it out and everything, and I actually really liked it. I couldn't sense any Tonquin bean or whatever.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But there was a slight vanilla-y taste, I suppose. But I did.
Well, that's it.
Get that Kentucky sort of taste I got. So I enjoyed it, and it lasted a long time because I conscious in the back of my mind of heavy nicotine. I sipped at it, and it was really enjoyable. But like a lot of Samuel Gowerth, if there was a fire in the house, just chuck your Samuel Gowerth over it. It'll get rid of the fire.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You got to dry it out for 6 hours before you're thinking about, having some. And so even today, I've got I've got a bit of St. James flake.
Delicious flavor.
I think I took that out of the tin at 10 o'clock this morning, and it's still just drying out. It's one of those things. Well, if you don't get to it, it's not going to do it any harm to stay out a little bit longer.
Yeah, true.
But it's been really good. Those days of one pipe, one tobacco. That I'm glad there's more to pipe smoking than that, because that's effectively what cigarettes were. One brand of cigarette for the whole rest of your life.
Yeah, loyal to your brand.
Yeah.
It's like
saying that. I've got a little bit of brand loyalty in that I'm finding that McBaron, apart from Rustica, McBaron hasn't made anything I don't like.
Mm. You like the
And
vanilla
someone
roll
gave
cake?
me
Have you tried the vanilla roll?
yeah, they're not bad. You know, they're good. I prefer the vanilla flake. I'm
Yeah.
not an aromatic smoker anymore. I don't go in for that, but I like the vanilla, and the vanilla flake is nice. Vanilla roll cakes is not heavy tasting in vanilla, but it has a pleasant room note when you're
Yep.
smoking it.
Yeah.
So I don't, and the coins that they come in are very convenient and
Yeah.
very easy to handle.
Ready to smoke. There's no. It's
Yeah.
definitely not made by Gawith, that blend, like.
But Rustica, someone gave me a flake of Rustica, and it just didn't float my boat. I won't buy into that, you know.
I've yet to try it. Yeah, what I did, like, if I often describe the world of tobacco and pipe smoking to anyone who doesn't know anything about it, I always compare it to wine. Because it is, I mean, as diverse, just as diverse and as different. You know, there's so many different blends, and it is as nuanced and diverse as the world of wine, in my opinion.
Yeah. My main regret in life, one of my main regrets in life, I suppose, is I wish I'd learnt about pipe smoking 20 years ago.
And not smoke cigarettes.
I probably would have given up the cigarettes quicker, and I would have been able to appreciate a more diverse array of tobaccos when they were appropriately priced, and I would have by now had a shit ton in the cellar.
Absolutely.
And I'd probably be more comfortable. At the moment, I'm acquiring what I can when I can, and you know, if I've probably got enough to see me for a little while, but not like 10-year supply or anything like that.
Yeah, I think I could probably smoke for a year, maybe a year and a half. But yeah, not for. You see some people on Instagram or YouTube and they have these sellers. It's like, Jesus Christ, man.
Put it this way, I haven't chucked the vaping gear away.
Yeah.
If it got to the point where I had to give up pipe smoking because of costs or whatever, or they just turned around and just made it impossible, then I'd probably go back, because that whole sort of sitting back and relaxing and that sort of thing was why I got into e-pipes. It was that it wasn't for nicotine. It was just to puff away and to, you know, go off in your own little world or watch a movie or something. With the pipes making, I sit out in my garage, but I'll have my laptop here or my tablet, and I'll sit there and watch YouTube videos or other things.
Yeah.
And it's my little escape away for an hour, you know.
Yeah.
And that's...
How many bowls would you have a day? Would you have one in the morning, one in the evening, or sometimes more?
When I'm allowed to go to work, I'd be lucky to have one in the morning as a heart starter with a coffee. Probably one when I get home, and then maybe one after dinner. If now that I'm working at home, I might have, you know, up to 5 during the day, but not huge bowls or anything like that. But it just depends. I'm trying not to smoke too much because I want it to last what I have got. But yeah, generally on the weekend, for instance, where I've got more time and I'm catching up on videos and things like that, I don't count my bowls. It's not excessive. We're not talking Everett Young amounts here. But g'day, Everett. You know, 8 or 9 bowls a day or anything like that. But I'm definitely like today. I didn't have that many. I knew I was going to come on here. It's been raining all day, but I've sat inside watching movies and whatever and catching up on a bit of work. So yeah, it just varies. But I will say this: when I started pipe smoking, I intended to have a couple of bowls a week. and I have not missed a day
Ah,
since
since
New Year's Eve.
yeah.
So
It has to be a conscious decision to take a day off for me as well. I haven't had one in maybe a month. Yeah.
The thing is, though, when I was a cigarette smoker, and I was a heavy cigarette smoker, if I would plan my day and my travel around where and when I could smoke. And one of the first things I'd look for when I got onto a site was, where's the smoking area? And how convenient is that smoking area to where I'd be working and all this sort of stuff. And it's just, this is all this stuff that was second nature. It wasn't like I consciously planned it. I just know that that's what my brain was doing. And, you know, any longer than half an hour without a cigarette, and I started to think about that next cigarette.
Yeah.
The one thing about pipe smoking is that I could take it or leave it. Like I don't take a pipe to work with me. I don't smoke at work or during travel between sites or anything like that. So it doesn't bother me to go the whole day without a pipe.
No, yeah.
And this is where I think that whilst nicotine is an addictive chemical, I think there's other shit in cigarettes that either work to enhance that. It's also too, you're getting that nicotine hit a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And so the brain is after that quicker hit. But even people who vape will tell you that they don't vape the same way that they used to smoke.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's something else. There's other chemicals that they're putting in cigarettes that work on you that way. So yeah, and that's why I like the pipe too, because whilst I can enjoy it when I want to or when I can, I don't, you know, I don't have a conniption because I can't have one.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you there. Absolutely. Listen, finally, I'm going to ask, I like to ask everyone, have you advice for any new pipe smokers or people who are just setting out on their journey?
I think it's probably more reiterating what other people have said, is that I'd suggest that you get yourself look to get at least 5 pipes, so that you've got a little bit of variety at least, and that you can give 1 or 2 pipes a rest over a couple of days. But don't go spending hundreds of dollars on those pipes.
Yeah.
Maybe spend a couple of $100 on the 5 in total. Get on Etsy, get on eBay or whatever. There's plenty of really good estate pipes out there for really good, you know, really, you know, inexpensive amount of money.
Yeah.
But then focus your finances more on acquisition of tobacco.
Yeah, because you never know.
But also too, not just because of the cost. The sooner you find a tobacco that you like, the sooner you can start cellaring it, and then you can put it away. You can put it at the back, and go and revisit it in a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you find a tobacco you like, the next time you buy it, buy 2 tins of it and put one away, or jar it or whatever. But that would be my sort of always think ahead, because you are going to enjoy this hobby.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, you're going to enjoy it. So you might as well start thinking ahead right from the get-go, because I haven't heard too many people say, I tried pipe smoking and hated it.
No, I haven't either.
They said, I tried pipe smoking and it gave me tongue bite, but I persevered. There was something about it that they liked. And obviously it might be influenced because they knew pipe smokers and they saw how they are enjoying it. But pipe smoking is a hobby. It's not a cigarette addiction. It's not a tobacco addiction. It's a tobacco appreciation.
Yeah.
And it's a hobby. And hobbies are as addictive as anything else.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just that the government are pricks about it. And some people are passing judgment on your hobby. And, you know, but I'm not passing judgment on those who like to jump out of planes or drive cars around tracks really fast and put their lives in danger. And potentially cost them thousands of dollars, but they find that addictive. They find guys who, you know, make model trains and stuff like that. That's addictive to them. So plan ahead about how you're going to fund it and where you're going to store it and how much you're prepared to tell your wife that you spent on it.
Good advice. Well, listen, on that note, thank you very much, Mick, for joining me. And
it's been a pleasure. It was great.
I hope to have you on again. We'll definitely have you on again.
It's good. Any time. It's I like this style of YouTube video. Actually, it's not one dimensional. I feel a little bit self-conscious just talking at a computer camera and hoping that someone's getting something out of it. But this is great because it's good conversation and it's a little bit easier to think of something to talk about because, you know, it's two-way.
Yeah.
Or three-way as it was before.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'll end the recording here. So thanks for joining us.
Right.
Thank you.
Good on you.